We are with Emmy award-winning Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Hey, it's good
Thank
to see you again.
Good to see you again. Last
Been a
time
while.
we chatted, we were in the middle of the desert in Baghdad, Iraq.
We cleaned up a little bit since
Yes,
then.
we have. We have cleaned up a little bit since then. And congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
You've
Thank you.
got a great book that's out, and
Thank you.
you're a busy, busy man.
Busy, and you know, it's been amazing. Really, being over in Iraq was one of the first big stories I covered, and I think what we saw out there together, I think has really informed a lot of my reporting. That's how I think about veterans, and I think people talk about veterans, they talk about the service to the country, and it's really important. But I think when you're out there and seeing what people are doing on behalf of us in the United States, keeping us safe, it's really remarkable.
Right.
They risk their lives to save others, and I just can't think of anything more noble than that.
And it's interesting how, what we saw out there. I mean, you were doing surgeries out there,
Yeah.
and you come back, and essentially the battle continues for the soldiers.
The battle continues very much so, and it's a point that I hope doesn't get lost, because I hear about soldiers committing suicide. More soldiers, more veterans die from suicide than from on the battlefield. And then the homeless rates among veterans. I mean, people talk so much about veterans, they care so much about veterans. Veterans get on planes and people applaud, which is all great, but the idea that there are veterans who are homeless, who can't get an address and therefore can't get care to address some of these things because they don't have an address. I've seen that. We did stories for 60 Minutes about trying to provide care for veterans when they return, and it can be very, very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope that people actually put their thoughts, their money, their resources, all that where their mouth is when it comes to veterans, because as you say, the battle continues.
And what I find is so difficult as a physician is when you see certain diseases, a heart attack, a stroke, you can see it. You can see like the EKG or the blood work that shows a heart attack, but you can't detect that veteran who might take his or her own life. And the question is, like, how do we address that, and how do we find the right resources? Is throwing money the solution? Is getting them off work, getting them back to work? There's so many things we need to figure out.
Well, there's some absolute basics, I think, which need to be addressed. And I probably like you, because of our medical training, we always learn that until you address the basics, you can't really get the other things right. You got to do the simple things first. Getting people care. I mean, having a system through the Veterans Administration system that provides care for patients who need it. It doesn't provide a lot of bureaucracy or obstacles to getting that care. I think that's very, very basic. And then also, really understanding the service and the sacrifice that they've made for the country, and say that has tremendous value in our country. And
they can do great things. They've proven that on the battlefield.
Well, we did the story for 60 Minutes, all about sort of an entrepreneurial boot camp. And you'll appreciate this because you've been there. There are skill sets that veterans have. They are the people who get stuff done under impossible situations. I mean, you tell them you want to move an entire convoy of things from here to there, and 99.9% of people will say can't be done. These guys will say, what time do you want it done? So how do you translate those skills into civilian society?
Right. I mean, even medically speaking, all of a sudden your combat boot is a neck brace. You put it on and tie it around. All of a sudden your M16 rifle is a splint, and you tie it to the leg. So necessity is the mother of all inventions. Mother of all inventions. And I think there's a lot of medical innovations that have happened in war. Revolutionary War, variolation, Civil War, EMS, World War I, blood transfusions, penicillin in World War II, and then Vietnam air evacuations, Korean War air evacuations. So this war too, things
we're learning about brain injury. We're learning about how to basically decrease the intracranial pressure in people who've had traumatic brain injuries, these invisible injuries of the war. As you point out, we learned a lot about evacuations and rapid medical care, but it was amputations were sort of the signature of previous conflicts, and now it's traumatic brain injury, which can be a much more invisible, harder to diagnose injury. So we're learning a lot there as well, but the battle does continue. as you say,
It
in
is.
so many different ways.
And I think what's important for the listeners out there is, I mean, so many people lose their lives, get injured in war, but you'll never meet the people generations later whose lives you will save because of your service and what we learned medically from you. Just like that soldier bleeding out in Valley Forge from his amputated leg, we learned in future wars blood transfusions, penicillin, air evacuation. And from this war, we're going to learn things. We're going to improve our care of PTSD, and
Yeah.
future generations will benefit because of you. And if you're not a veteran out there, please support them. The battle continues.